And I'm going to talk about his history now and a little bit about why Joe Biden is such a hazard when it comes to campaigning against Donald Trump. So in 2016, the main thing that got Donald Trump this election um, was how he attacked Hillary on her record. Now, actually, it's not the main thing, but it's the main thing that won him the 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 dubs on the debate stage, right? So when he was debating, he would attack her on NAFTA, her position on NAFTA, because she supported NAFTA. He would attack her on TPP. He would attack her on the Iraq War, and those are all things that Joe Biden has supported. So we've seen that history is a huge thing when it comes to going against Donald Trump, and something that up front he's going to attack you on. So let's look at Joe Biden's history. So, going down the list, he supported the Iraq War. He supported NAFTA. He supported permanent normal trade relations with China. That's what the PNTR is. Permanent normal trade relations with China, which would have hurt, and all those NAFTA, TPP, and PNTR all hurt middle class workers and manufacturing workers in the Rust Belt, which is a crucial voting area in this election. Um, and that's certainly going to come up in throughout this race. Joe Biden has also supported the war on drugs, which I'm sure I don't have to go too much into depth on how disastrous that has been for the country. Hundreds of thousands of non-violent drug offenders in jail because of possession of marijuana, and disproportionately against blacks. Now, blacks are like 6 times as likely to go to jail than whites for non-violent drug crimes. Um, More likely to crack down on crack rather than cocaine. And most users of cocaine are white rather than crack, which most users of crack are black. And these are targeted specifically against the black community. Like, it was directly to hold down the black community coming out of the 60s, right? And that's part of Joe Biden's base. That's who keeps him alive and flourishing, and part of the strengths of his campaign is his support of from blacks. And when you look at his record, if Trump can really attack that and really expose that, then there you go. His base is gone. It's crumpled. And even today, I'll go into even today, I'll later talk about currently how he feels on marijuana. Um, it's just there's no progress. He is also voted for the Patriot Act. Now, the Patriot Act, if you don't know, basically allows the government to spy on its citizens. What it did was it allowed the NSA, National Security Agency, to look through people's phone records, which violates the Fourth Amendment of unreasonable search and seizures, because the government basically has an unregulated check to go through anybody's phone, and that's it. There's no check on that. There's no need to be like any reason, no reasonable suspicion, none of that. They just go through your stuff in the name of anti-terrorism. So that is something that Joe Biden has supported, which would definitely come up and is a big part of his history. He also voted to repeal Glass-Steagall. Now, a lot of people don't really know what Glass-Steagall is and like the effects of it, so I'm gonna go ahead and do like a quick rundown. So in the 20s, there was a huge economic boom. A lot of people were investing in stock, and they were getting huge returns off of it. And what people would do is they would go to their commercial bank. They'd be like, "Hey, Bank of America, let me get like 500, and I got you in like a year and a half or 2 years or whatever." and then they would take that 500 and they would invest it into stock. And at the time, stock was growing at like 400% a month. So it was pretty much like guaranteed. Like it was a safe bet at the time. It wasn't like it was bad. It was they were doing well off of it. So people would do that, and it was working out really well for them until like 1929, 1930, when the stock market crashed, and it led to the Great Depression in 1930, which lasted like 10 years. And in 1933, two senators, Glass and Stegall, got together and they were like, you know, what we should do is we should probably not let this happen again. So they wanted to separate commercial banking and investment banking. So basically, commercial banking would only be allowed to do safes, savings accounts, and checking accounts and deposits. And that's all that they would handle. And investment banking, they would handle trading and stocks and stuff like that. Um, and that worked out really well. The stock market started to stabilize, and there was stability in the stock market. Up until like the 80s and 90s, where stock started growing exponentially again, of course, because of PCs, Apple, and all that crap. So in 1999, Mr. Joe Biden was like, "Hey, you know what? Uh, we should let banks get in on this, because the banks were like, we want to get in on this little investment thing going on here. Like, this is kind of looking good. People are making money. We want some of that." So they called up Joe Biden. Joe Biden was like, "All right, let's repeal Glass-Steagall." So he helped repeal Glass-Steagall. And what happened was it created a bunch of mergers, and it created this issue too big to fail. So basically, Bank of America merged with like three lower end banks. J.P. Morgan merged with Chase, and they were too big to fail. And so Glass-Steagall didn't really cause the economic recession of 2008. That was just malpractice and bad lending practices. But what Glass-Steagall did is it allowed the banks to feel comfortable doing these malpractices and giving out these bad loans, because they knew that they were too big to fail, that the government would have to end up bailing them out, because there weren't really other banks to do the practices that they were doing and handle and take over the money that they had handled. So basically, he helped contribute to them feeling comfortable in their malpractice, which helped cause the 2008 recession. So that's just a huge, huge issue on its own. So there's that he voted for. Um, and basically, yeah, there's just simply the Iraq War and trade alone could lose you the election, because Iraq War, we had what 45,000 troops die in the Iraq War. We're spending 2 trillion. We spent $2 trillion, and we're estimated to spend $7 trillion. These are huge mistakes and huge things that have happened, and why? Because of now, I don't like talking about campaign finance reform, but I am learning that it might be necessary, come up and coming in the future, because of politicians like Joe Biden, who has been taking money from Wall Street and the big corporations and all of those um, industries that have led to these to the downfall of the middle class, basically, and just going around and pretending like he's for the people, when he's really taking money and putting in policies that only help them. And we can see it with his record. It is there. And if you can't comment on that, what can you comment on? The only thing that gets you to trust someone is the things that they've done in the past. And it's clear that he is not for the people. With his voting record, it is clear he is not for the people. And I think that Trump is going to expose that in the general election and the general race. and that will destroy Joe Biden. Just that alone, just his history. And that's what he did with Hillary, and we can tell, we know he's going to do it again.